Well, the White House putting pressure on the Senate to find a solution to the border wall battle and avert a Christmas-time government shutdown.
You know, at this point, the Senate's thrown out a lot of ideas. We're disappointed in the fact that they've yet to actually vote on something and pass something. So when they do that, we'll make a determination on whether or not we're going to sign that.
So let's bring in Republican Senator from Wyoming, John Barrasso, who is also the chairman of the Senate Republican Policy Committee. Senator, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
All right, where do we stand at this point? Because we've heard talk today, as Trace reported to, of a potential short measure that gets you to February 8th. And you also have the White House saying we're waiting on the Senate to do something.
Well, I'm committed to keeping the government open. You may have seen on the floor of the Senate tonight, we passed a bipartisan piece of legislation that the president has as a signature piece of legislation.
Criminal justice reform.
85-12. So the big win for the president tonight, and you saw lots of senators on the floor talking, negotiating, dealing with the issue of the importance of keeping the government open. It's what a responsible governing body does. I want to make sure the president gets the money he needs for the border security that keeps us safe. I believe we'll get there, whether it's the $5 billion figure today. This way, the president will find the money. I talked to him this weekend. He's committed to border security, and you know he's a man of action and results. That's the kind of leadership we're going to continue to get from him.
But how do you get there without Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi on board?
Well, they continue to be obstructionists. Look at where the Democrats have gone with their hard left turn in terms of how they're campaigning. Some of them even want to eliminate ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement. I mean, that's how irresponsible they are. Nancy Pelosi called a wall immoral. Well, what the president is describing includes a physical structure, but also you need the technology, the manpower, the enforcement, all of those sorts of things at the border to keep us safe. And it's not just about illegal immigrants. Just take a look at the Mexican cartels, the drugs coming in, whether it's the fentanyl, the heroin. We have about 100 people a week in the United States lose their lives from drug overdoses. So it's bigger than just the issue of the illegal immigrants.
Okay, well, you'll have to get some Democrat votes to get any of this stuff passed. It's something more comprehensive. But let's talk about a couple of conservative critics on this issue of immigration. R.J. Howman, Government Relations Director for FAIR, Immigration Reform Group, says it's now or never. It would be a failure if Trump didn't dig in his heels to deliver on his signature campaign promise. Mark Krikorian of the Center for Immigration Studies says this: if he doesn't at least force a shutdown for some time, I don't see how he can go into 2020 and blame Democrats over the wall. Everyone would say, of course they're opponents, but you didn't really even try.
Well, the president, I think, has been very forceful and speaking out on this, and the Republicans are with the president on this, and I believe he will get what he wants accomplished. But I don't think shutting down the government is the answer. Not whether it's Christmas time or any time. I think it's not what a responsible governing body does. Now, as you know, we're talking about a very partial shutdown if this happens. 75% of the budget has already been funded through the regular appropriations process. I think we ought to do the whole government that way, so we have just a quarter of the funding to go, and we're passing those appropriation bills. So the sticking point right now is Homeland Security, and I think the president will ultimately prevail in keeping our country safe, because border security is national security.
Well, you know, folks, a lot of them voted for him on this issue alone. I want to ask you, too, about the Obamacare ruling out of a Texas federal judge, lower court federal judge, basically saying with the tax or the individual mandate penalty going down to zero, being zeroed out, it takes out the heart of the bill and it can't survive. It's unconstitutional. Paul Krugman responding this way. He says, if there's one thing that's absolutely clear after the past 2 years on health care, it's that the Republicans have no alternative to the ACA and never will. Their plan is for people to get sick, go bankrupt, and die. How do you respond, especially as a physician and surgeon yourself?
Well, you know, as a doctor, 24 years as an orthopedic surgeon in Wyoming, I am committed to taking care of patients, and we need to make sure that patients can get the care they need from a doctor they choose at lower costs. And Obamacare failed in many ways, but one was that actually too costly and too complicated. The number one complaint today about health care is the cost. Now, as a doctor, I want to make sure that people with pre-existing conditions can get insurance. My key is affordable insurance that's appropriate for that person. And what we're trying to do is with association health plans, there's another opportunity for about 4 million people to get insurance. This is what we've done in this administration. Additionally, the so-called short-term plans that can go up to 3 years now, another 4 million people will be able to get covered that way, providing people something affordable less than half the price of Obamacare and appropriate for them so they can buy what they need.
Well, we'll watch and see how this. For now, the administration says everything stays in place while this is tried through the courts, maybe even back to the Supreme Court. But in the meantime, we know getting anything substantive done is going to be really challenging on the Hill with the House and Senate. But we'll stand by. Keep us updated.
Well, it is interesting because the Democrats have, again, this far hard left turn. They're saying Obamacare has failed, too. What they say is that what we need is a single-payer, government-run health care with higher taxes, fewer choices, and longer lines. That's not what the American people want.
We got to leave it there. Senator, thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Good to see you.